episode 306 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. You know, Trump's still explaining. I think that means he's losing. Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
Opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret proceedings.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I am at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing, and telling your friends about this podcast. We continue to grow, and I truly, truly appreciate it. Hope you guys had a great week. Man, you know, sometimes I come to the microphone with a plan. I know exactly what I'm going to say. I mean, I don't know exactly. I never script it out. I'm not one of those. But I have a general idea about what I'm going to say, what I'm going to talk about. And sometimes I come to this microphone and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. And it's not always because there is nothing to talk about. Sometimes it's because there's too much to talk about, right? Like today I could talk about Epstein again and, you know, why on Thursday did the DOJ send the Deputy Attorney General down to Florida to interview Ghislaine, or whatever the hell her name is, Maxwell. And by the way, the Deputy Attorney General, up until 8 months ago, was Donald Trump's private personal attorney. Just for the record, in case you were wondering. And people keep asking me, well, is that going to satisfy MAGA? I would think it would make it more of a conspiracy, right? What are they offering her in exchange for her silence or for her talking publicly in a way that fits their narrative? I don't know. I could talk about that. I could talk about Donald Trump's trip yesterday to the Federal Reserve, where he tried to show Jay Powell the overrun in costs on the plant, or not the plant, on the new Federal Reserve building. And Powell pointed out, no, you're talking about as if we built another building. And he's like, well, isn't that what we're doing? He's like, no, that building was built 5 years ago. I mean, it was quite stunning, to be honest with you. Quite embarrassing. And again, I'm not embarrassed for the president. I come at it from a different angle. I mean, I was a staffer. If the president really believed that, and the staff didn't prepare him appropriately for that trip, it's on the staff. Now, if the staff said, no, Mr. President, you're reading this wrong. It's 3 buildings, and 1 building was built 5 years ago, and we're, you know, and then he still went on and did it, well, then that's on him. But I don't know. I think that the staff around Trump, especially in the second term, I don't know if it was the same in the first term. I think the staff around Trump in the second term is having a real hard time telling Donald Trump anything. I don't think they are speaking truth to power. I just don't. So it's very interesting. There's a lot to talk about right now, yet none of it really interests me all that much anymore. I mean, I've said a lot about the Epstein case. And again, I for the record, I don't believe that being named in the file means that Trump is guilty of anything. I just think it's embarrassing. And I think given that he should have known, given his, multi-decade relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, that any file about Jeffrey Epstein associates would contain his name in it. And maybe even correspondence between Trump and Epstein. And considering what they both had in common, it would probably be a little bit embarrassing, right? I mean, it should have been very clear to me. But I've said a lot about it. I mean, should we lower interest rates? I mean, do you want me to get into a conversation about finance, deep finance on this 15-minute radio program that I'm doing here? Do you want me to get into a conversation about why we should or shouldn't raise interest rates? Let me just give you my bottom line in it. I think as a consumer, I would like to see lower interest rates. But as somebody who wants to see the dollar remain the reserve currency of the planet, I don't think that the president of the United States should be interfering. That said, every president of the United States in recent memory, with the exception of people who have had low interest rates for the entire presidency, have pressured the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. They have put the pressure. They've said it publicly. It doesn't mean that they do it. One of the strengths of our monetary system, one of the reasons why the dollar is the reserve currency in the world, and if you don't know what that means, please look it up. I can't explain that in a 15-minute radio show, is because we have an independent monetary system that is the envy of the world. It is the gold standard. And we may not like what the Fed does, but the independence is what keeps the dollar the rock-solid currency. It's why every other country in the world measures their wealth in U.S. dollars. And we want to keep it that way. I know I want to keep it that way. I think that most people want to keep it that way. Maybe Trump doesn't want to keep it that way. He'll get to name a new Fed chair in May. And that new Fed chair is probably going to be somebody who wants to lower interest rates. And we'll see what happens then. But I don't know. That's kind of boring stuff to talk about on this show. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I am at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Those are my socials. Watch me on News Nation. It's news for all Americans, and I'll be appearing on some national radio shows. I think later today I'm going to be on Hannity. And just for the record, anybody who calls me and says, "Oh, I heard you on Hannity and he killed you," just know he did not kill me. It's his show. When he starts speaking, somebody shuts off my mic. I'm not saying it's him. It might be. And also, by the way, once the host starts speaking, you should stop talking because it's their show. So I don't want to hear it. I'm going to give my best. I'm going to give him my best. I think we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard and her pronouncement that Obama should go to jail. Here's the problem with it. I don't think Tulsi read her own report, which basically mirrors the report issued by the Senate Intelligence Committee, chaired by none other than Little Marco, which concluded that Russia was indeed trying to interfere in the election by releasing private emails that they got off the DNC server in an attempt to damage Hillary Clinton. That was what they've discovered. The Senate Intelligence Committee, chaired by Marco Rubio, who I believe now is Secretary of State, head of USAID, and the National Security Advisor to the president. Just for the record. That guy, that same guy. Oh, and also, for the record, Obama can't be prosecuted for things he did as president. The Supreme Court said so back about a year ago to protect Donald Trump. Just so that protection also extends to Barack Obama. So, little Lindsey Graham going out and calling for a special prosecutor today. I need a special prosecutor. It's some BS right there. It's some butt kissing to the next highest level. And I think it's kind of ridiculous. But I will probably be talking about that with Hannity later on this afternoon. So if you're listening to me on a station that carries that show, check me out there. One last point. Yesterday, I spent a lot of time talking about Paramount's decision to cancel the Stephen Colbert Show which, by the way, it won't be till next year. Back in May, it'll be canceled. They then gave South Park $1.5 billion for a 5-year deal. I think that's great. I love South Park. South Park had its season premiere last night. And if you haven't caught clips on it, you're clearly living in a right-wing bubble. And get out of it. Because, first of all, it's hilarious. It is, South Park used to have this thing. I don't know if you ever saw the South Park movie, which came out when I was in law school. Actually came out when I was studying for the bar. And I know this because 4th of July weekend, I had to take a 3-day bar review course in the city. And I stayed at my then girlfriend's apartment, but she was out on a tour. She was a ballet dancer or something. And I was there by myself, and I was burnt out from this class, and I walked to the movie theater down the block from her apartment, and I watched the South Park movie by myself. It must have looked to people like a scene from what was it, On the Waterfront? I mean, it was pretty bad. I was laughing. But they had this thing about Saddam Hussein and the devil being lovers. Well, they revived that last night, only this time the devil's lover is Donald Trump. And it is kind of hilarious. Now, I don't think the president's going to appreciate it. But you got to give it to Trey Parker and Matt Stone for just days. I mean, days after it has appeared that Paramount has sold out to the administration, who, again, as we said, can't take a joke, to just really go hardcore. I mean, hardcore. I mean, it is. It is. I mean, I had to look away. You got to hand it to them. I mean, they are fearless. And I guess when you get a contract for $1.5 billion to use your content, I guess you could be fearless. I guess that's what they call FU money in the business. I don't have said money. I'm looking for it. I'm hoping that one day I get a deal. I don't think I need $1.5 billion. I'll take 1.5 million. I'll be pretty happy. But, watch it and see if you can have a sense of humor about it. It is a little cringy. I'll admit that. It's more than a little cringy. But I thought that the timing of it was spectacular. I just thought the timing was spectacular. I hope Stephen Colbert talks about it on his show. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I hope he has Matt and Trey on. It is amazing to me that show's still going. I mean, again, I started watching that show in the 90s, I think before I went to law school. And it's still going, man. 25 years later, 27 years later, maybe 30 years. I mean, how many episodes do they have of that thing? Also read a story about Isaac Hayes and how he didn't want to quit being the voice of Chef. I don't want to get into I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here. All I'm saying is we talked about the need for people to have the ability to take a joke, to laugh, even when you're laughing at people you support. I know I do. I do it all the time. I talked about Dana Carvey's George Herbert Walker Bush impression. I forgot to talk about his Biden impression, which I thought was hilarious. So I don't know. Take a joke, America. And whatever you do, try to relax this weekend. Get out of the political bubble. Go outside. Enjoy. But whatever you're doing, listen to this. I'll be right back. It's funny how Trump surrogates are trying to suggest that it was Obama that made the deal, the sweetheart deal that allowed Jeffrey Epstein not to go to prison in 2008. Obama was not president in 2008. George W. Bush was president in 2008. And the U.S. attorney who made the sweetheart deal, Mr. Costa, became labor secretary under Donald Trump in his first term. So just, do the math. I saw Senator Mark Wayne Mullen on the morning show trying to make that point. Jake Tapper was trying to correct him. And Mark Wayne Mullen at the end almost seemed to understand the math. That and he tried to say, no, it was 2009. Nope, it was 2008. It was 2008 when that happened. It wasn't Obama that made the sweetheart deal. Obama became president in 2009. He got elected in 2008. But he wasn't controlling the U.S. attorney for Florida. I think the Southern District of Florida. I think Florida has 4 districts like New York does. Back in 2008. I do find that hilarious. They're all back on leave now, on vacation, because Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, decided to let them go home early because he didn't want them voting on the Epstein matter. Meanwhile, the Oversight Committee has determined that they're going to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell, who the Trump administration met with for 2 days. Now, I don't know, call me skeptical. But the deputy U.S. attorney who used to be Donald Trump's personal defense attorney, interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell, the close associate of Jeffrey Epstein, who was serving time for sex trafficking, right? And by the way, perjury. Another charge she's got. I can't imagine what those meetings were like, and I think at some point we'll find out. But I would imagine those meetings went something like this. Give me something on some Democrat, right? Let's forget about Donald Trump. Let's forget about the leather-bound book you put together for Jeffrey Epstein that the Wall Street Journal reported had a personalized card from Donald Trump with a very bawdy picture on it. Let's forget about that for a minute. Please tell us everything you know about the enemies of MAGA. I wonder if the deputy U.S. attorney had talking points prepared for Ghislaine Maxwell to see if she would agree with those statements. I'm just, again, when Donald Trump commutes her sentence or pardons her or moves her to a nicer facility, I wonder what MAGA's reaction to that will be. Now, I don't think that will happen anytime soon. It won't happen before the midterms. I don't think he'll wait till the end of his presidency, though, because Donald Trump's like, I'm not thinking about it, but I could do it. I'm allowed to do it. Well, he knows he's allowed to do it. Why does he know he's allowed to do it? I mean, I guess he knows he's allowed to do it because she's in federal prison. But did he know she was in federal prison? I don't know that he pays that close attention to anything that's not him. I mean, remember, when she went on trial, Donald Trump, who has called, any woman who's ever crossed him a nasty woman, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris. When asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump said, I wish her well. I wish her well. Why did he wish her well? Because they were friends, America. And again, I do not believe in guilt by association. Just because Donald Trump was friends and buddy with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein doesn't mean that he was engaged in pedophilia or sex trafficking. Doesn't mean he was engaged in anything wrong. But I would ask this question, which a lot of people have been asking, Jon Stewart particularly, Stephen Colbert particularly, Donald Trump has always had his own plane. So why then was he a passenger on Jeffrey Epstein's plane? That's a question I'd want answered by him. I don't know if anybody's asking it other than Colbert. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram. and ChristopherHahn.com. Make sure you're watching me on News Nation. I'm on there all the time. It is news for all Americans. And if you're not already listening to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast, you might be doing that right now. Download the Aggressive Progressive Podcast wherever you get your podcasts and tell your friends if you like it. Because I really, it's growing. It's growing by leaps and bounds, and I truly appreciate it. So, let's just talk for a minute about the arsonist getting credit for putting out the fire. So Donald Trump over the weekend went to Scotland to play golf at Turnberry, his resort. And my offer from his first term, you may have been listening to me during his first term, my offer from his first term remains. He could take the jet and he could stay in Turnberry. He could go anywhere he wants in the world. Just leave us alone, right? I would like that. I would enjoy that deal. That deal remains on the table, Mr. President, if you so choose to take it. But while he was there, he met with the head of the European Union, and they agreed on a trade deal, a 15% tariff, as opposed to the 30% tariff that he was threatening. Yay! Used to be 0. I want to remind you that it is you who pays the tariff. Not me. Not Europe. You do. You pay the tariff. It gets passed on to the consumers. And I know we haven't fully faced the effects of tariffs. But the Wall Street Journal poll is showing that Americans do believe that Donald Trump's doing a bad job lowering prices. As far as I could see, the only thing that's come down in cost is gas. And that's usually a leading indicator that other things will come down in cost. But that has not happened. And the reason why that has not happened is because of tariffs. It's just that simple. Whether they are domestic providers taking advantage of the market and raising their prices, or whether or not they are imports where you're getting part of the tariff in your bill. I think his monetary policy is bizarre, to say the least. So I'm not going to applaud Donald Trump making a deal when Donald Trump started the fire, America. Donald Trump started the fire. It was Donald Trump who imposed these tariffs. It is Donald Trump who is responsible for the rising costs in America right now. And remember, the tariffs on European imports had not gone into effect yet. They were scheduled to go into effect this coming Friday, August 1st, as are tariffs from, about every other country in the world other than the handful that he's made trade deals with. Remember, they were going to do 90 deals in 90 days. I think they did 9 deals in 90 days. He played 90 rounds of golf in 90 days, or pretty close to it, I would bet. But he didn't do 90 deals. No, that was too much work. Too much work. They were too busy passing a bill that was going to triple the size of ICE. Triple it. Let me ask you this question, America. When ICE deports all, 9 million or so immigrants who are here without papers, what happens then? What do we do with ICE after that? Do we reduce the size of ICE? Does ICE go back to its current levels? Do they all go work at the airport so we could speed our way through customs? What do we do with that massive army, which is going to be bigger than the entirety of the FBI when they get up to speed? What happens with that army, America, of masked men? That is a question that should be haunting you right now. It haunts me. I don't know what happens when these guys, are finished with their job. Because if you triple the size of ICE, and right now they're doing 5,000 a day, and then, they're doing 15,000 a day. Or maybe it's 3,000 and it'll go up to 9,000. I don't know. I don't know how long it takes them to clear the country of everyone here who's crossed the border illegally. But it sure is interesting to see what happens. I mean, maybe if they have triple the amount of people working there, they won't be so quick to deport Americans who are here legally, who are born here, who are American citizens, who just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they get roughed up by these guys, even though they're trying to tell them that they're Americans, show them their paperwork. But they're not believing their paperwork. I don't know. Maybe he should have been working on trade deals instead of getting that monstrosity through. Maybe Congress should put some guardrails around ICE. I for one, would be more than concerned about this domestic army the president's building. I'm concerned. It's been a rough 6 months. I know that we've talked about this a lot. I've talked about how long this 6 months feels. I don't know if you're a Trump supporter and you're listening to me right now. Maybe you think this 6 months has flown by and you're like, you can't believe it. Trump's presidency is already, I don't know what 6 months into 4 years is, 20% over, right? I don't know. Maybe you're not happy with that. I mean, the time for him to get anything done is almost over because he's running out of time. The midterms are going to be upon us before you know it. When these guys come back in September, if they're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, time's up already because that'll fill the remainder of this year. And then next year, they're in election mode. So, and of course, they've got to fund the government after September. And I don't think the Democrats are going to be very cooperative. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Time is going by, though. I mean, the best way to recognize that, just watch any political pundit on TV. When they're not with a really political anchor, like when they're with like a newsy type anchor who's just doing doing an opinion section during the news broadcast. I do a lot of those. They almost always now end their broadcast asking the political pundits who they think the Democrats will nominate for president. It's hard to figure that out right now, right? A lot of good candidates. Josh Shapiro, I think, is very good. I think the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, awesome candidate. Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom. But I mean, it's only been 6 months of Trump, and we're already having this conversation almost every time I go on. I mean, I was on the air 5 times last week on television, and I was asked about it 4 times. And the one time I wasn't asked about it is because the clock ran out, and they asked the other guest, and he took a little bit too long, and they didn't get back to me. So, and I was relieved because I'm running out of new things to say about, who the Democratic nominee will be. I don't like to give the same response every time I go on the air. So it's, it is a symptom of where we are in our political cycle right now. There's a lot of unhappiness, right? I'm hearing a lot about the poll about how bad the Democrats are doing politically and how the American people don't approve of the Democratic Party. But yet, when they are asked who they will vote for on a generic ballot for Congress, Democrats are up 8 points over Republicans. So what does that say about Republicans and where they are right now? They always want to, look, here's the thing. When Joe Biden got elected president, people and Donald Trump, led a revolt against the certification of the election. The Republican Party wasn't doing too well. And in 2022, when the Republicans failed to take the Senate and barely took the House, when a red wave was predicted, people weren't like, oh, this is the end of the Republican Party, or maybe they were. But that didn't last very long, right? Democrats are an election away from taking back the House of Representatives, in my opinion. And they may, I think it's a little bit of a longer shot to take the Senate, but it is not outside of the realm of possibility. Roy Cooper, the very popular 2-term governor of North Carolina, will be running for the United States Senate in North Carolina, which is now a vacant seat because Tom Tillis is leaving because he can't stand being in the Senate while Trump is president of the United States. Democrats need a good candidate in Maine. Susan Collins should not get a free run. Democrats have got to figure out another state or two, and then they're in it. They got to pick up 4 seats. They're going to pick up 3 seats in the House. Republicans are doing everything they can to make that hard by trying to redistrict Texas. Democrats have said, we will redistrict California if you redistrict Texas. Because enough of the unilateral disarming in this party. I believe that districts shouldn't be gerrymandered. But if the Republicans are going to gerrymander the hell out of their states, what are Democrats supposed to do? I mean, the House and the Senate are already undemocratic because the very small states like Wyoming are going to go Republican every time. They have 450,000 people in them. The average congressional seat is 900,000. We got to make democracy more democratic in America, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's a pipe dream right now, but it's got to happen. There needs to be major reforms. Maybe when we get through this era, this unprecedented era that we have right now, maybe there'll be some motivation to do that. All right. I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth, to question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again real soon to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for joining me on the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.